Thank you. It is exciting to be here. Last time I was here, there wasn't a ceiling. There was no beautiful murals. It was 2012, I think, was the year we figured out. So it is awesome to be back. I've been wanting to come back, and I am blessed to be here. And let's start with our theme verse, the verse that we are looking at this weekend. Anybody have it memorized yet? Just memorized where it was? There you go. Ephesians 2:19. All right. All right. And Ephesians 2:19 says, "So then you are no longer strangers and visiting foreigners, but you are fellow citizens with the holy, sanctified ones and members of the household of God." So you are a member of a household. And it's kind of exciting because you belong to a household. You know, sometimes in this world there's lots of loneliness and isolation, but God has saved us from that and put us in an awesome household. And go ahead and go to John 13. And I've noticed throughout my many days that depending on which household you're in, different households do things differently, like the way they talk. Like down here in the South, you guys say y'all a lot, or bless your heart, things like that. Northern California, you hear things are hella awesome. You know, hella cool, hella awesome. That's a huge word you use. In the East Coast, Northern East Coast, everything is wicked cool. You know, different people have different things that they say. Oh, so I hang out with middle schoolers a lot. I'm a 7th grade teacher in my spare time. And depending on your age group, you have different things to say about things as well. One of the ones that I still don't understand is if you want to affirm somebody or if you want to say that you agree with them, you say bet, like B-E-T. I don't know why, but it's like, you know, instead of like, I'm going to go to the store today, I'll bet. I'm like, what? So I don't know where that came from, but that's something that the middle schoolers say these days. So if you hang out with a bunch of 13-year-olds, that is potentially what they were talking about, or at least the ones in Colorado. So here, I'm not even in John yet, busy talking. All right. So why did I just do a long ramble about the differences in words that we use? Well, it's because that's how you can identify people. Like if I met somebody in a completely different area of the world and they started saying, you know, y'all with like a southern draw, I would know probably where they were raised. Maybe that's not where they live, but that's where they were raised. Well, God has a calling card for us too. He has something that when people that aren't part of our household, are not believers yet, can look at us and see, oh, those guys are Christians. Okay, because there's something unique about us. Something that's different. And in John 13:35, Jesus here is going to tell us, John 13:35, there we go. Actually, we'll start in 34. "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, and that you also love one another. By this is the love we have one to another. By this, all will know that you are my disciples if you have love one for another." So this is what should set us apart as Christians, that we have love one for another. That when people see Christians, they go, oh, those guys must be Christians because they're so loving to each other. Just like you can identify people based on their vocabulary, different places in the country. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into this love thing, just so you don't think it died out with the time of Jesus. It continues into our administration. All right, so go ahead and go to Galatians 6:10. "You will know you are my disciples by your love for pizza." No, it's for each other. It's not for money or for food or for anything else. It's our love for each other. Galatians 6, verse 10 says, "So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everybody, and especially to those that are in the household of faith," which is every one of us and every other Christian, everybody else who has believed Romans 10:9 and 10. Let's go to Romans. We'll look at a few verses in Romans. God is real big on love, which makes sense because God is love. So Romans 12 is where we'll stop off first here. And Romans 12:10 says, love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. We're to one-up each other in loving each other. Romans 13:8 says, owe no man anything but to love one another. For he that loves another has fulfilled the law. So we're supposed to owe nobody anything but love. We should always be in debt to one another with love. So we're outdoing each other in love, we're owing each other a debt of love, we're doing good to everyone, especially to other Christians. And Romans 5:5 says, and hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. I've got an example. Okay. So, this verse doesn't say, God put some love in your heart. And there it is. God said that he poured love. And pouring, takes some time to pour all this love into your life. He poured the love. So we have enough love to love one another. So next time you're having a hard time loving a fellow Christian that might be slightly annoying, remember that God did this. He poured the love. He didn't just place a little bit in you. All right? Pour the love. All right. Having too much fun. All right, moving on. So he poured the love. All right. One more verse in Romans 16. So Romans 16:19 says, for your obedience has become known to all. Therefore, I am glad on your behalf. But I want you to be wise in what is good and simple concerning evil. Okay, so it is good for us to love each other. And God wants us to be wise in what's good. And part of what's good is to love each other. And then simple and evil. So simple and being mean. All right, so be smart and being nice, and be mean, or be dumb and being mean. There we go, I said that right. I saw this meme that said, everything I learned about the Kardashians, I learned against my will. And that reminds me of this verse, because that's how we should be with evil. Everything about evil I learned against my will. It's something that we shouldn't focus on. We shouldn't be concerned with it. We want to be wise in what's good, and it's good to love each other. So we're going to look in detail, what's the wisdom of loving each other? What does that entail? But before we do that, let's go to 1 John. We'll read a couple verses in 1 John. Oh. 1 John, we'll start in chapter 3 here. 3:18, my little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in truth and in love. All right? So God's like, don't just say I love you. Brother, it's nice to see you. Actually do something about that. Love in deed. Love in truth. If someone needs help, love them and help them, instead of just say, I'll pray for you. There's another verse that says that somewhere in there. So one more verse in 1 John. 1 John 4:16. Okay. It says, so we have come to know and to believe the love of God, the love that God has for us. For God is love, and whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. The first few words of this verse, to come to know and to believe. It's one thing to just know that you have love poured into you, that you are supposed to love each other, that we are supposed to outdo each other in love. But it's another thing to really believe that and act on it and live our lives that way. And that's what I want to focus on for the rest of this teaching, is be thinking, do I believe the stuff about love, or do I just know it? Do I just know, yeah, because I've read that verse, for the last 10 years, or do I really truly believe it? Am I acting on it? Am I doing this? So we're going to read a very famous section about love. It's 1 Corinthians 13. So go ahead there, And I want you to be thinking, do I really believe this? And if I do really believe this, how am I doing this in my life? Because if you believe something, you're going to act upon it. If you know something, it's just going to be stored up in your brain. So we want the knowing to go into the action, to actually live it out. So 1 Corinthians 13. I'm not quite there. All right. So, verse 1. If I speak in the tongues of men and of divine messengers, but do not have love, then I become a sounding brass gong or a clanging cymbal. So you could speak in tongues all day long, but if you don't do it with love, you just sound like a bunch of crashing pots and pans falling all over each other. All right. Oh, okay. I got to get something ready for this next verse. Hold on. All right. So number 2. If I have prophecy and I know all the mysteries and all the knowledge and I have all the believing, so it removes mountains, but I do not have love, then I am nothing. So if I understand the entire book of Revelation, everything written in Daniel and Ezekiel, but I don't have love, then I'm just a lame-o. I mean, it's nothing. You know, if I have enough faith to move a mountain from Colorado all the way right here and put it in the backyard, but I don't have love, then it's nothing. So some of this, hold on, I gotta get this right. I got another prop, guys. Hold on. So this verse reminds me of this sound clip. Okay, so you've got the power, but you don't have love. It just sounds bad. It's not cool. There's not any love, all right? But what so that's what that verse always reminds me of that. I'm always secretly singing that song in my head. Which, by the way, I YouTubed that for the first time, and it was I'd never seen it before. I mean, I guess that song's from the 80s or something, but I've never actually listened to the whole song before. You just hear that clip just living in society, I guess. But it's an interesting experience. All right, so back to here. If you have the power, if you use the power, if you understand everything about all of it, but you don't do it with love, God says it's nothing. It's nothing. That's how powerful and important love is. All right, verse 3. If I give all my goods to feed others, and if I give my body to be burned, but do not have love, then it profits me nothing. Could profit the other person. If I give Dylan here $5 million, he'll be buying a nice house and a nice car. But if I don't do it out of love, it profits me nothing. You know, it is possible to give away stuff and not do it out of love. I mean, we can look at Ananias and Sapphira in Acts 15 and see that. They sold a bunch of stuff and gave it to the church, but then they dropped dead. They were not profited by that. All right. So verse 4. The right kind of love is long-suffering. It is kind. The right kind of love is not envious. The right kind of love is not a braggart. It is not puffed up with pride. God's love has a tolerance for people. You know, we can endure each other. We can endure people beyond an average standard. Because we can be patient with people. You know, the King James and the Work Translation uses long suffering. You know, sometimes it is suffering to deal with people, and it takes a long time. But we have the capacity to do that and to not be anxious about it, to love people in peace in our own heart. We don't have to be freaking out like, it's supposed to be long suffering, it's supposed to be long suffering. When we're dealing with somebody, we can actually have peace dealing with somebody. But we got to believe it. We got to know and believe it. You know, in our get everything as fast as you can society, you know, we don't teach patience. We don't teach it in the schools. We don't teach it when it comes to anything in our lives. So it's kind of a lost thing in modern day society. But it's not lost with God. And we don't have to buy into the world's crap about we need it now. We can buy into God's, which is patience and peace with patience, which is a big key. Not patience for the sake of patience, but peace with patience. All right. Was there more I wanted to say? Oh, yes. So, and then this verse also says, love isn't envious. We want to see people blessed. I think Victor talked about that a little bit last night. We want to see the promises of God working in people's lives. When they get healed, we want to get excited, even if we have a knee pain or something. Or when they get promoted, or when they buy their Lamborghini, we got to be excited for that. You know, we don't have to be envious like, well, I really wanted that Lamborghini. You know, we can be filled with love and be happy for them, knowing that we have the same God who's going to bless us. And love is not puffed up. It's not prideful. It's not talking about how awesome you are, how awesome I am. Well, I get to do this and get to do this for the Lord, of course, you know. It's not that kind of attitude. You're interested in what people are doing, what other people are doing. All right. And you know what? It's a great thing that we can be kind to each other. God is kind. Love is kind, you know. It opens the door, you know. Serves other people first. You know, sometimes we can think, I want to do these great, big, amazing things for God. But, you know, doing small, kind things is just as awesome as doing really cool, big things. And doing kind things for each other. Because if you remember, the world's going to know us because we love each other. We're good to each other. We're kind to each other. All right, verse 5. It does not behave itself dishonorably. It does not seek its own behalf. It is not easily upset, and it does not consider evil. It doesn't behave itself dishonorably. It ain't rude. It seeks other people's benefit, not only listening so you can respond. It's listening out of love, finding out what's going on. Not easily upset. Love isn't irritable. All right, verse 6. It does not rejoice in injustice, but it rejoices in truth. Verse 7. It covers all things, believes all things, it hopes all things, it endures all things. I think a modern phrase to use is, it puts a lid on it. You know, it doesn't go around saying all the bad things people do. Like, did you hear that Kiki lost her job because, well, she was feeding Skittles to the goldfish? Did you hear that? No, it doesn't do things like that. It covers it up. It's like, oh, we're praying for Kiki. She just needs a new job. You know? It doesn't say why she needs a new job. All right, we're going to go back to Ephesians, and that's where I'll close up here. Ephesians 2. We'll re-look at those verses in this new light of love, because the household that we belong to, love is what it's about. So, Ephesians 2:19. So then, you are no longer strangers and visiting foreigners, but you are fellow citizens with the holy sanctified ones and members of the household of God. Verse 20, who are being built upon the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, of which Christ Jesus himself is the main cornerstone. So Jesus Christ, he's our example. He's our cornerstone. And he lived his life in love. In fact, he gave that commandment, love others like I loved you. Which is even greater than love others like you love yourself. Because sometimes we're not always nice to ourselves. But Jesus, always awesome to us. And we're to love people like Jesus did. I think Victor said this last night too, was what good is a foundation if there's no house upon it? Or hopefully I'm quoting you right, something like that. Don't want to misquote you. Yeah, hopefully that was right. But it's true, if Jesus has this whole foundation of love and our house is not built on love, it's going to be flimsy, it's going to blow away. We want our foundation built on love. We want people, when they see us, to be like, they got to be Christians because they're so loving. And that's what Jesus says. That's what it says throughout the epistles. We're supposed to outdo each other in love. Love one another. We're a household of love. So that's what I have. I love you guys.